Welcome to Growing with Grace. We are in Romans, the 5th chapter. We are in the big leagues when you jump into the book of Romans. The Apostle Paul brought so much doctrine and theology in here. Scholars today marvel at all the nuggets of truth that you can find in the book of Romans. Romans is one of those books where you can park there for weeks and for months and just immerse yourself in the truths that the Apostle Paul brings in the book of Romans. So as we start this 5th chapter, ours starts off with the word therefore. When we have that word in there, that means that we need to make sure that we understand or we reread preceding chapter before we get into what we're going to read. So Paul's working on the doctrine of justification by faith. He starts it back in the 3rd chapter, brings it through the 4th, and he's finishing it off here in the first 11 verses of chapter 5. And the way that the Apostle Paul is finishing this, he is now showing us the benefits that we receive, these gifts that we receive by having this faith. And in this plan of the ministry of reconciliation that God is the architect of, we begin to receive access to the Father because of our faith. We also receive peace. There was a war. There was enmity between us and God. That's removed. When we believe, when we have that faith, we now have peace with God. We receive His grace. We receive hope through the Holy Spirit. So Paul finishes off that doctrine with these benefits. Then he moves on in deeper in there, and now he begins to compare two kingdoms. The kingdom of darkness and evil, and the kingdom of light and righteousness. Adam represents the first. Adam represents the kingdom of darkness because of how he ushered in sin, which brought in death to mankind. Jesus represents the kingdom of righteousness, of life. Adam brought death. Jesus brings life. Adam brought sin, and Jesus brings righteousness. Think about it. God places Adam in the garden and really gives him one command. Don't eat from that fruit. He can't complete it. He fails. He sins. He disobeys. Jesus, living in his time as a Jew, you can actually say that he has well over 500 laws. And he never breaks one. He is the perfect replacement for Adam. I want you to just think about, as I have spent just so much time trying to really wrap my mind around what Paul is telling us in the 5th chapter of Romans. One of the things that I want to share with you is we have been set free because of the obedience of one man, Jesus Christ. And the Word tells us that who the Son sets free is free indeed. And now for us, through our faith, to live this life, understanding that we are completely freed from the condemnation and the penalty of sin. We now have free access and peace. And we have that hope in our heart by the Holy Spirit that God is going to do exactly what He said He's going to do. We no longer have to dread eternity separated from God. We now have eternity forever. It's hard for me to understand it in His presence. Thanks for joining again. May God richly bless you today, and may you continue to hunger and thirst for His righteousness. We'll see you next time.